Welcome to Conversations. I'm Muqtadar Khan, your host, and today I'm going to talk to you about the crisis in Iran, but from a from a very particular perspective. I want to talk about the impact of the crisis in Iran and potential weakening of Iran as a state, and perhaps even if it essentially goes down into some kind of chaos and internal struggle as part of the regime stays in power and part of it is being challenged domestically. So, whatever happens if Iran becomes a weaker state, what kind of a strategic impact is it going to have on India and India's geopolitics? That is the question I want to address today. So, those of you who have not already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, press the bell icon, and don't forget to share it with your social political network. So, the first impact that it is going to have really is on India Iran trade. Already, Donald Trump's threat to impose 25% additional tariffs on countries which are trading with Iran has already made India stop what it was doing. Already India had stopped buying Iranian oil. In 2018, India's trade with Iran was close to $14 billion. And now that has completely gone down to about 1.2, $1.3 billion, with India having a trade advantage or a positive trade balance of over 14, about 600 to 18. This is distracting me. 600 to 800 billion dollars worth of trade. The trade is not that significant, but the trade is not very significant, but the fact that there is a trade with Iran is fundamentally important, and you will understand that as I continue to talk. But the first and foremost, the most important impact will be that the trade between India and Iran will suffer. So, and that is a loss. There are some businesses which depend on their exports to Iran, and that will cause a severe damage to their interests. But there is a roll-on effect of that, and I will talk about that. The second impact of a weakened Iranian state or a chaotic Iranian state is on the very fact that Iran is India's gateway to Central Asia. So Iran has a port called the Chabahar port that India has invested in close to $1 billion in the past 10 years. And while Donald Trump has initially prevented India from trading, now there are discussions that India will be able to use Chabahar port. But this is fundamentally important. India's access to Afghanistan is from Iran. India does not have any direct access either to Afghanistan or all the Central Asian states with whom India has been working very hard to develop positive relations and trade relations. And India does have a good, healthy national security related cooperation with the 5 Central Asian states. And now India is also trying to establish and increase the amount of trade it has with these Central Asian states. But the access to the Central Asian state is through Iran. And if that closes down, then India will be completely cut off and strategically marginalized. India will be completely out of Central Asia. And that is something that we need to really focus, because Central Asia and Eurasia are important parts. Plus, the North-South trade corridor also goes through that region. And if India is cut off from Iran, then that access also to the North-South trade corridor would also disappear for India. So the second potential consequence on India strategically of a weakening Iran, of a collapsing Iran, is that its access to Central Asia will be cut off, and even the trade routes and the trade corridors which go through the Central Asian territories. The third challenge for India is essentially what is going to happen if the United States and Israel attack Iran. As the President Trump has been threatening already, Israelis have claimed that they are playing a major role inside Iran in instigating and supporting the protests. We all know that Iran has been completely penetrated by Israeli intelligence. in the past few years, the way they assassinated all the Iranian nuclear scientists and the way killed Hania, the Hamas leader who was in a guest house of IRGC. So we know that Israel does have a very strong presence, and Iran is already accusing both Israel and the US of fomenting this. So if all this crisis goes on, but this particular regime survives, then we have a problem because Iran is going to move more and more into the orbit of China. And as a result of that, we will have this bifurcation of China becoming of Iran becoming part of the Chinese orbit, and meanwhile, the other major player in this region in the Gulf and the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, is now in a defense pact with Pakistan, and Pakistan has very close relations with China. So we see this emerging new kind of an alignment in the Middle East and the Gulf with Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, China, Iran, and India is left out. And because India is so close to Israel, to some extent, India now is the closest friend that Israel has outside the United States. And all the so-called strategic partnerships and the frequent phone calls between Netanyahu and, for example, Prime Minister Modi. Modi has not made any phone calls to the Iranian leadership. And in Modi has not condemned the role of the US or Israel in fomenting domestic unrest in Iran. So given all of this silence of India on Iran, it is but natural that whatever regime emerges out of it, or if this regime survives, they are not really going to consider Iran as a very good friend. And if you recall, when Operation Sindoor was happening, the foreign minister of Iran had come to New Delhi, and some of the pro-Modi, pro-government television channels had abused the foreign minister of Iran, had even called him essentially, I think, a pig. So already there is some tension there, and this could get exacerbated because Iran has been a good friend of India, but at its moment of crisis right now, India is not standing with Iran. And so countries, whether it is Gaza, whether it is Venezuela, whether it is Iran, whether it is Greenland, are all realizing that in moments of crisis, India doesn't stand with anybody. So at least when India was at war, the Iranians sent their foreign minister to negotiate, to offer to mediate. India is offering nothing. So I think that if this regime collapses or some weaker version of this regime emerges, it will have a negative impact on India's role in the Gulf with respect to Iran. And I think China's influence and presence in that region will increase to the detriment of both the United States and India. If the US is going to do something about this, then it needs to go in completely and install a government that is pro-United States. Anything short of that will increase the Chinese influence in this, because at the moment that China and Iran maintain a strategic distance while also having a strategic partnership. If you remember, they signed a 25-year deal. China is the 90% buyer of Iranian oil. India doesn't buy Iranian oil. In spite of the sanctions, the Chinese continue to buy Iranian oil and is Iran's biggest trading partner. So in that sense, you could argue that India would lose an important partner in the Gulf to the advantage of China. And India ultimately, perhaps in the Gulf, will be left with only Israel as its partner. And remember, Israel, for all its power, is essentially a proxy to a great extent, of the US, and it's not a major economy, really. $600 billion is total GDP. So the fourth consequence of a weakening Iranian state, a chaotic Iranian state, is an advantage to Pakistan. I've already said as to how a closer relationship with Iran and China will help Pakistan, because so far, to a great extent, Pakistan and Iran, in spite of both claiming to be Islamic republics, have not really been great partners. In spite of the fact that both claim to be Islamic republics, they have not been great strategic partners, partly because Pakistan was supporting the Sunni Taliban and Iran is a Shia state. And so, in many ways, the extremists, the Sunni extremists who were threats to India, were also a threat to Iran in that sense, and therefore India had some strategic convergence with Iran with regards to Sunni extremism, which was partly supported and fomented by the Pakistanis. But now things could change dramatically because India would not have a counterbalance to Iran in OIC and other summits because Iran, by becoming a part of the Chinese orbit, would, in that sense, also become a kind of a quasi partner with Pakistan. And that is the fourth negative consequence of this chaos that will emerge. I'm quite disappointed by the remain silent, say nothing, don't take any sides posture of Prime Minister Modi and Indian foreign policy. They seem to be scared shit of everything. They're scared shit of upsetting Donald Trump. They're scared shit of talking about the violation of sovereignty, whether it's in Venezuela or in Greenland. They're scared shit of talking about Iran. They're scared shit of talking about the genocide in Gaza. It appears that all the talk of 56-inch chest and India is a robust country, major world power, it's a multipolar world, and India is the fourth biggest economy in the world, etc. With all of this talk, India has become irrelevant to most of the major crises in the world. If you are in Venezuela, are you looking to India for any help? No. If you are in Greenland, are you looking to India for any help? No. If you are in Gaza, are you looking to India for any help? No. India is selling weapons to Israel. On the contrary, India is helping Israel. And if you are in Iran at this moment, who is coming to your help? It's not India. So I think that India's current manner, its fear of upsetting Donald Trump and its obsessive relationship with Israel has made it a relatively weaker state in the Gulf and in the Middle East, with whom it traditionally had very good relations with Iran and other Gulf countries. In fact, India's third biggest trading partner after the US and China is United Arab Emirates. So in that sense, I think that India's foreign policy at the moment is not serving the long-term interests of India as an important voice of the global South, as an important non-aligned player. And the fear of upsetting Donald Trump has made India completely impotent when it comes to major issues in global affairs today. So thank you for watching Conversations. And if you have not already subscribed to the channel, do subscribe to the channel, like this video, press the bell icon, and don't forget to share this with your socio-political network. Until next time, I'm your host, Muqtada Khan. Take care.